Ready? Okay, everybody, it is 5 p.m. on Monday, March 10th, 2025. This is a regular board meeting for the Monroe School District. President myself, Vice President Campbell, Director Barnes, Director Etzkorn, Student Representative Sophia Willett and Myron Robinson, Superintendent Woodward, District Leadership Team, School District staff, as well as members of the community. And tonight, President Bumpus and Director Whitfield will not be in attendance with us. Members of the public can log into the regular board meeting using the Zoom link attached to tonight's agenda, which is also available on the Board Docs website. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. We welcome to tonight's board meeting. We're happy to have you join us. All comments during tonight's meeting are audio recorded and will be available online on our website. This is in addition to the written minutes. Please understand that while it may appear the board is moving quickly on important matters, there have been previous discussions on these issues either in earlier meetings or in board workshops, which are also open public meetings. Each director has had ample time to study the issues, ask appropriate questions, and obtain satisfactory answers from the superintendent, his staff, or through outside research. Those wishing to address the board during public comments must turn their public comment form prior to the start of the meeting at 5:00 p.m. Any form submitted after the meeting has started will be held for the next meeting to address the board at that time. And we do not have public comments tonight, correct? All right, making sure. All right, moving on to agenda item 2.4 or 2.04. There is one late item added to the consent agenda, the Spending Freeze Prevention Grant 2024-2025 for the boilers at Maltby Elementary. All right, and that moves us on to agenda item 2.05, approval of the agenda. Is there a motion?
I move that the Monroe School District Board of Directors approves the agenda dated March 10th, 2025 as amended with our late add.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, there's a motion and a second. All in favor, please raise your hand. All right, motion passes 3-0. All right. Moving on to agenda item 3.01. Excited for you guys to talk and I can listen now. Frank Wagner Elementary presentation.
And I'd love to provide a little bit of context if that's okay.
Yes, please.
So I have had lots of great conversations with both Hugo, who could not be here. I think he caught what everyone else had caught, and Deb, since I've arrived, just in regards to their work around improving student learning at Frank Wagner. And I've been so darn impressed with how focused they are on improvement and really focusing on the right work. So I've got to hear from Hugo and Deb, and then I get to spend time in the classrooms at Frank Wagner, and I continue to be impressed with what I see happening in my one-on-one conversations with teachers and kids and other staff. And I can't remember where I was at. I think it might have been a guiding coalition meeting. Was that where we were at some sort of a meeting? And I heard a couple of our great teachers that are here tonight talking about what they were doing in regards to their collaborative teaming and their sharing of students and just to ensure high levels of learning for each and every one of those kids at that school. And I was blown away with the work that they were doing. And I was thinking, man, if we could just scale that work district-wide, it would just be amazing. And they might have been disappointed that I was so excited, because then I said, can you come to a board meeting, please, and share some of the work that you all are doing? And they said yes. So thrilled to have you here, and we're really excited to hear more about what you're doing at your school.
Well, thank you very much for having us tonight. We are very excited to share what's going on at our school. If we go to our first slide, this is kind of where this conversation started. This was a celebration for us. As you can see, this is our OSPI report card overview. And as you can see, in almost all demographic areas, we're trending up. And in the areas that we are not, we are now taking a very close look at, well, what can we do for those groups of students to make sure that next year all of those bars at the right hand side are trending up. I'm not going to talk much more because this presentation is really being given by our team, because what we'd like to share with you is what they are doing in the classroom. And I will say outside of the classroom during our PLC time and our intentional planning time, that is making a difference for our kids. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to my team, just to say that this is, as I'm proud of all of my paraeducators and my support staff, and my teaching team. They are all in it for kids. And when they find something that works, you'll see how deep they can take that. So I am ready just to turn it over to them.
Okay, the next slide, please. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Dana Zimba. I teach third grade over at Frank Wagner Elementary. And the first thing that our teams have really been digging into is we're looking at kind of that backwards by design piece. And so specifically in math, a district team at each grade level has been coming together and really digging into what are the standards that are important for our students to reach. They're digging into it, picking out the vocabulary. How are we going to get our students from where they are at to where they need to be? We're talking about language sentence stems. We're talking about raising the level of rigor through their academic discussions about math, and then providing proficiency levels for us as educators, but also for our students in student-friendly language. So they know exactly what they have to do in order to reach grade level at each individual standard. Math is where we have started. We're hoping to move into reading and writing as we move on. Specifically at Frank, we then take that work that the district teams have been doing, we bring it back to our building, and in our grade level teams, we build assessments, both formative assessments, which you give lots and times throughout the unit, and then our summative assessments to see what students have retained throughout the entire teaching time. We look at our assessments through the lens of proficiency levels. And so where is it that our students, it gives us an idea of where our students fall out. But we also are looking at the depth of knowledge questions that we're asking. So are we asking our students to do rigorous tasks, or are we kind of living in the understanding, like remembering world? Once we're done with the assessments, we then move into building our instructional block, and we do that by each unit. We put in our assessment at the end and we say, okay, we have to get here by this time. And that's when we dig into our curriculum pieces. And we look at the way our curriculum aligns to that standard. And we're looking for ways that each lesson fit within those proficiency levels. So as we look through Eureka, for example, we're saying, oh, lesson 1 really aligns to proficiency level 1, which then allows us to determine when are we giving the quizzes, which then allows us to really capture kids in their level of understanding before we move on without them to different proficiency levels.
Hi, I'm Sarah Kuntz. I teach the English side of dual language for 4th grade. So like Dana said, as we plan our units, keeping in mind where the different levels fall through the instruction, we have a couple big things that we keep in mind. So we've done some trainings with Mona. She's an amazing coach, but we really look at keeping all of our instruction aligned to the standard. I know, for example, in 4th grade, our curriculum very quickly jumps to a level 4 while we're still learning level 2. So it was really important that we sliced off that level 4 proficiency and really built a conceptual understanding. We've found that we maybe in the past have been jumping too quickly to some procedural understanding or even some abstract understanding, and we've left that conceptual understanding without much depth. So we're really working at using manipulatives and concrete models and living in that conceptual land for a little bit longer. And we can do that through differentiated instruction. We can do that through small groups. But then the idea is that we fluidly move through those different types of understanding: the conceptual, the abstract, the procedural, moving from like tangible items to representations, maybe to equations. So that has really helped build a deeper understanding with our students. We're also using many language supports. Like Dana mentioned, we identify key academic vocabulary. We fill our walls with the word banks. So if kids are like, oh, I took that number and I did the thing, it's like, oh no, you used a factor and you multiplied it to determine a product. So we're really pushing that level of academic language with students, providing sentence stems, oral rehearsal within the classroom, giving them opportunities to turn and talk with with a partner to get some of that confidence before maybe they share a whole group. And another big piece we worked on this year is that vertical aligning between our grade levels. So we really came and looked at like, oh, where does your teaching start and stop for your grade level, and really ensuring we focus in on what we are responsible for, so we don't provide gaps or we don't double cover something that, hey, this was a grade level below, I shouldn't be spending time on this. I really need to hone in on what is at my grade level, and then that will ensure we don't have gaps of understanding as kids move through grades. And then the final piece, which is really exciting, we take advantage of our common planning times. Some teams go before or after school, and during our collaborative times on Fridays, but we do a data protocol. So everyone gives their common formative assessment, and we make sure we calibrated the assessment so it's the same assessment. Our assessment environments are the same. So do we read the questions aloud? Do we have any supports available for students? And then we get really vulnerable and we talk about the data. This many kids were proficient. This many kids were not proficient. We make hypothesis on why did this kid succeed, but maybe these kids didn't. Is there groups of kids that maybe we didn't provide a structure to that we needed to? And then we plan some interventions to try to bring those students back up. Like Dana mentioned, in our unit planning, we build in that day after an assessment so that we can do some interventions. And then we'll reassess. Did you get it? Because we're really trying not to leave anyone behind. Okay, thanks.
Yes. Well, all right, so transparency in teaching and learning process. Oh, I'm Emily Miller. I teach fourth grade at Frank. So I brought an artifact to show. So one of the things that we're being super transparent about is being very clear about what we expect kids to do. So this chart we created as a team. We also have at Frank, it's called instructional happy hour. Most Mondays after school, we'll like we created this Monday after school. We just said, everybody come down to the makerspace and let's make a proficiency level chart. So everybody has the opportunity to be on the same page. So this literally hangs in my class, in everybody's classroom that makes one. And so we started, level one is, the language is not really that kid friendly. It comes directly from what the standard is, but we do have examples of what it should look like on each of the proficiency levels. So this is something that just hangs in the classroom. We have it for multiplication as well, and all the other essential standards that we teach.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
we could be like, hey, ladies and gentlemen, the last week we've been working on a proficiency level 2. Guess what? Today we're moving into the land of proficiency level 3. This is grade level math. So kids know exactly like, oh, okay, so I was building some skills. I was getting like, building my understanding, but now this is grade level. So they could tell you every day, hey, what level proficiency is this work today? I'll be able to tell you.
Yes.
And they're like, our goal, like, I want to do really well so I can get into that invited to that 4 group. Like,
Yeah. Yeah. I had a student, we gave an assessment today, and first thing he raises his hand, he says, is this level 3? Is this level 3 today? Because I want to do level 3. And then he wanted to do 4, but it's not, he's not quite there. No one could do level 4 in double digit multiplication today.
I also want to say that level 4 is above standard.
Yes.
So during our standard teaching, like, we didn't teach it. If they get 100% on a level 3, they'll be invited into an advanced group during that intervention day. It's not guaranteed that you will like do that work unless you have such a conceptual understanding that you can get there.
Yeah. And then on the chart that's posted up there, that is one of Sarah's. And then as you'll see, we have sentence stems attached to that. So we're really, really working hard on having the kids use the language intentionally. On the bottom, it says there, how are the area model and partial products similar? And so the blank and blank is their opportunity to plug in. The area model and partial products are similar because so it invites them to use the language that we have taught them. So it
And
lands.
that's one way to lift the rigor on a computational standard.
The other piece that is really, really vital is the preparedness of our kinder students. And so at Frank Wagner, we do a lot of really intentional work with those students as they come into us. And one of those pieces is we delay classroom placement at the beginning of every year. So every kindergarten student comes and nobody knows their teacher, and it's really great. And we all get to know each other. Teachers are able to look at academic needs, SEL needs, and they're able to balance those classrooms in a way that's going to support each and every learner and the teachers are going to be able to support them rather than just kind of having a random placement of kindergarteners as they come into us. We also have transitional kindergarten at Frank Wagner. We had it full day last year, and we saw a huge, just like a really great, as those kids moved into kindergarten, those kids were ready to go, especially being able to just move within the school up into kindergarten. And we are adding a dual language TK to our program as well. So we think that's going to be a really phenomenal foundational piece for those youngest learners that we have. To our families, we provide a kindergarten readiness night. So in the spring, we invite our families. We talk about what are the needs of kids as they come into kindergarten and how they can support over the course of the summer so that when their child enters kindergarten, they're ready to go and it's not kind of this big scary place that they're worried about. And then in the fall, we offer our students a jumpstart program. We invite our kinder students, they come, they ride the bus, they get to meet their teacher, they spend time in the classroom, they spend time playing with each other. And it really brings about kind of a sense of community prior to them coming to the school. So it kind of allays a lot of those fears. And then if you go to the next slide, the other piece that we're really excited about is that early literacy and setting that foundation for the future of our students. And so this is last year's data, and you can see the growth between March and June in our students, so that as they move into the grade level, they're ready to go with whatever the next grade level has. But most importantly, all of our teachers know how to teach this. So like even in third grade and in fourth grade, we all know how to teach phonics and segmenting words and phonemes and all of these things, so that when we do get a kiddo who comes up to us and is still struggling, we're not going to just be like, oh, well, I teach comprehension, sorry. We will pull them into small groups, and we will hit those, early elementary school pieces so that we are not continuing to just pass those kids along and allowing them to grow and thrive in those environments. And we also see massive amounts of growth in the upper grades as well. So.
All right, so attendance has been an issue district-wide. And so we really are trying to close that gap. So we surveyed the kids, and what we discovered is that they weren't coming to school because they didn't feel like they belonged. They didn't have a say and they didn't have a place at our school. So we did a screener based off of the Panorama, which was the student input. And then the teachers did the BZ screener, which had us assess with all kids internal behaviors, internalizing behaviors and externalizing behaviors. So we would put that data in there on what we thought for each kid. If it was really red in the internalizing behaviors, then we would focus in on how to get them how to communicate more. The internalizing is always more difficult than the externalizing. You can see a really angry kid. So that has really helped, and our counselors have been amazing in honing in and getting those kids, and they've made lunch bunch groups. So they meet with just a group of 4 kids most days to get the kids to see that they have friends and that they belong, and that they can talk to these kids. And now we have a new system called check in, check out, where every single person, if you have a badge at Frank Wagner, it doesn't matter if you're a teacher, if you're office staff, admin support, even the admin, paras, all have a kid that they will take and meet with, and they check in with them every day and then check out with them every day. And it's just a folder. I have a kid, and he's a 2nd grader, and we meet at 2:05 because that's the best time that works for both of us. And so we just hang out for about 5 to 10 minutes. We just talk, and he talks about his favorite things. And we're also working on kids saying their zones. What zone are they in? Like red, green, blue, or yellow. And so he talks about what zone he's in, and just it's working wonders, because then that child or the children can have a connection with other adults and feel like they belong. And so we know when kids aren't in school and they're not engaged and they don't feel like they matter, and they're not going to go, they're not going to learn. So we have our counselors have really been amazing with that. So and we have 2 of them, so please don't take them away. And we need them, and they both speak Spanish, so it's even more phenomenal.
All right, so at Frank Wagner, let me just find I forgot my glasses today. I'm so sorry. So at Frank Wagner, we're committed to fostering a learning environment that empowers all students to achieve their full potential. And we feel really fortunate that we are in a building that our admin supports teacher leaders. We've all gone to some really impactful trainings, and we've been able to bring it back to our SAT and our BGC. And we've really been given the platform to push this work out to the teachers in our building, and then those two teams are pushing it out like building wide. So the teachers at our school are committed to providing powerful tier 1 instruction every single day, and I would love to invite you to come see this in action. It's a really, really powerful place, and we would love for you to come see what it means to be part of our Frank Wagner community. So thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you. Thank you.
Can you see why I asked them to come?
You guys have a lot of energy for being at the end of the day as well. That's awesome. I got giddy in your conversation because my teacher brain got turned on and I had lots of questions and then you answered them all. Except with a couple of them. And so one of the things I wanted to know is when you guys are doing, looking at your common formative assessments and then going back and saying, okay, what strategies we're working and you go back and revisit that. Are you guys playing that out to your teams? Because you talked about vertical alignment, but horizontally for each grade level team saying, hey, these are the strategies that we're finding success and sharing that out with each other. So that if you walk into any given, Emily, for you, any given fourth grade team, not just yours, but are you guys saying, hey, these strategies are common across the grade level as well?
Yeah, that is a question that we have on our data protocol. So every team has the same data protocol, same questions that they have to go through. And one of the questions is something like, are there discrepancies among the scores between teachers and classrooms? And then that is what leads into the discussion of like what worked and what did not work. And so we do have those conversations within our grade level teams of like, why did it work here and why did it not work in other classrooms? And it might be the instructional strategy that was used or things like that. And so we are having those conversations, which I think is a testament to the teachers in our building, because that's a very vulnerable place to come from and say, wow, my data was not as good as the other teachers. What can I do to make sure that my students receive the great instruction that I know I can provide?
So
Awesome.
can I add also? As we go through and we're like, oh, this worked really, really well for me, and we list out the things that worked well, we can take those strategies and turn them as part of our tier 1 instruction for the next standard, the next unit. So it's not like, oh, I'm going to save those for intervention. Like when my kids didn't get it, we're going to try these things. That automatically then rolls and we try that first next time. So we're evolving our own instruction based on what is working with the kids we have in front of us.
Love it. Can I see your chart with the standards again? I want to take a picture of that because I'm teaching an endorsement class at Northwest University for teachers, and I love it. I had a question about that. Do you guys do the same thing for ELDs as well for the English language development standards for students who are MLLs that you can, they're basically having the access to the language that you say, okay, here's our content standard, but do we have language standards to go with that as well? Do you guys have that?
We do. When we unpack, when we unpack our math standards, one of the boxes is what is the language standard that will support. And so a lot of them, because we're just starting to try out this work. Like one we're using right now is that I can explain my steps using past tense verbs and causal connectors. And so then the word bank are all past tense verbs.
Oh my gosh, I love
and
it.
then it's like sentence like first I blank the blank, and we're using some GLAD strategies. So we know that the first blank is going to be your verb. So it's going to be a green box, and then the I blanked the blank will be a red box because that's your noun. So it's like first I drew the area model. Next so
now you're speaking my love language. I love it. Can I take a picture of this so I can show my students? Because this is awesome.
I was just going to say, it has been incredible to watch the change that has occurred over the last 9 years at Frank Wagner from the time my now 14-year-old was in kindergarten there. I felt like during your presentation, I was watching an instructional video on how PLC should go. Like, this is what this looks like. This is what it is when you are just firing on all cylinders. You're putting kids first. You're being vulnerable. You're putting trust in your team, which, as you said, Dana, is not an easy thing to do. So I just commend all of you. I mean, the staff, everybody at Frank Wagner, for the strides that you are making and the impact and the difference that you're making for our students every single day, and being creative. I mean, my goodness, that's half of what it's all about. So I truly appreciate this, and it's so exciting to watch. It's taken some time, but man, you guys are going, and I'm really excited for 1 year, 2 years, even more down the road to see where we're landing with all this and how our kids are excelling. So thank you so much for coming here today and for sharing all this wonderful stuff with us.
Yeah, absolutely agree. Nice job. Very exciting to see the progress. I just had a couple quick questions. So at the beginning, you listed the overall framework score. What is the target score? What's the goal that you want to see out of these students? Oh, okay, it's okay. I was just curious. I mean, I don't know sure the numbers, 1.8 or 3.9 mean, like where do we want to be, but we could chat about that later as well. Okay, and then how frequent are these intervention days? You mentioned like after tests and stuff, but how often are we talking?
Yeah, we will, they follow us CFA. We will, like, it could be, it just depends. Like, we just had one last week because the unit was quick and we assessed, and then we will have another one this week because we had a CFA today. So we are giving ourselves more time for a turnaround. We discovered we had to adjust our norms for our PLC. Our turnaround time was really stressful, and we were just kind of not doing it as well as we would like. So normally it should be 24 hours after CFA, but it is. But no, well,
We were meeting.
yeah.
we
Go
were-
ahead.
We were trying to meet the same day. So
Yes,
if we
the
gave
same
an
day, yeah.
assessment today after school, we'd have all our data in, do our data protocol so we could intervene tomorrow. But like I have 52 kids and that was really hard. So I'd be like, I need a minute. So we have decided that we will meet 24 hours after. So we put our data in tomorrow. We have the protocol. But ideally our intervention days would go, we'd have no more than 2 weeks in between.
Okay,
So the learning doesn't, it's not like we go 3, 4, 5 weeks and it's like, oh, wait, you didn't get it from 3 weeks ago. So 2 weeks usually max.
And ladies, when you say CFA, for everyone who doesn't speak teachers, you mean Common Formative Assessment,
Yes.
correct?
Yes.
Okay.
And the way we know when to give a common formative assessment is it's based on when we are done teaching a proficiency level. So that you have to know what's coming up next. So
well, I think that sounds great. And so from what I understand, and correct me if I'm wrong, you split the students up by what level they are and break off into small groups and teach to where the students are at.
yeah, so once you do your data, you say, okay, this is where they fell out. Here are the skills that we need to have them work on. And the best part about this is then you can leverage all of the teachers in the grade. So I send my kids down the hall to my teammates, and I send them across the hall to their teammates, and I get kids there. And it's a really cool way to leverage the strengths of the teachers as well, because you'll also find that there are some teachers who are really great at teaching conceptual understanding, and some teachers who are like, man, I really like the algorithm. And so you have that ability to leverage the strength of your teachers in those intervention days for your students as well. So it's a really
That's
cool.
awesome. And then
time.
the student can also hear it from multiple different people or see it taught
Yes.
maybe in a slightly different way. That's great.
Yes.
So where are these days coming from? Just out of curiosity. I mean, if we didn't do this last year, the year before, do we have to take something out, or how did we gain these extra days? The intervention days I'm talking about.
Oh, yes. Yeah. So there are, like, as we look at the curriculum, there are lessons that we're like, oh man, that doesn't match any part of our standard. And like, why am I teaching it? And so what we have done is we have just committed to, like, we are putting in these intervention days, and it is going to take us potentially a little bit longer to get through the curriculum that we're getting through, but we're also finding we're not all that far behind other schools. As I align with Chain Lake and other places, I'm like, oh, we're right where we should be. And so it's just an intentional decision to say, we want to take a pause. We know our kids need it. We're going to do what's best for them in this moment, rather than being like, oh, sorry, next unit, fractions, good luck.
And our curriculum does tend to lean heavy getting to that abstract, and abstract is not always embedded in our standard. So there are some lessons we can not get to and spend a little bit more time in the conceptual to build understanding.
I see. Well, it sounds great. Okay, then my last question is, you mentioned, or someone mentioned, sorry, I forget who, hopefully, we start with math and hopefully can move on to reading and writing. Is there a decision point or end of the year review the data, or how, or when is that happening?
The big work that we're doing in math is kind of centered around those district level teams who have come together with Sarah as the kind of the backbone of that and building out those standards work that we're doing. And I think that is a hopeful decision for reading and writing standards as we move forward in the next year.
It's not my decision.
You don't know, year ish. And so we anticipate that coming as well. But we also have people who are already pulling that work and aligning the work that we're doing to standards and coming up with teaching points and common formative assessments. And it's not as big as bold as you see in the math instruction right now, but it is coming along and we're making progress in it too.
Awesome. Well, I just say I really like what I heard. I really like what I'm seeing. Great job. I really love the intervention days. So we can share those learnings across the district, and so others can emulate would be amazing.
Awesome. Thank you, ladies, for taking time out of your day to come tonight. It's awesome work that you're doing, and thank you for pouring into our kids. It's worth it, and it's awesome when you see progress. So, very much. Any other questions? All right. Thank you so much. Yep. Awesome. Yeah, you can clap. It's okay. Yes. We like to clap for good instruction and when people put that hard work in. Yeah, and awesome teachers too. All right, that allows us to move on to agenda item 3.02, our CTE program update.
Okay, so hard to follow that act because those guys are wonderful. It really is a model of what our professional learning community work should look like at every grade level. So super exciting to watch that. And I don't usually get to follow such an energetic crowd, so it feels weird. I want to introduce the people I have with me. First off, I have Shannon Barksdale, Michelle Dickinson, and CT, and Darby Vigas. We are here just to we're slated to do this a little earlier in February, but I got really sick, so sorry. We are giving our CTE month, which was February, and now it's March, month update that we do annually, including a few celebrations and just kind of giving you an update state of affairs of where we're at with CTE. So going to start off with just kind of going, oh, thanks, Jesse. Going through our vision, just to start with, we've seen this before, but really to provide opportunities for all of our students to engage in high quality CTE pathways with strong vertical programmatic alignment in order to prepare them for college career readiness upon leaving high school. And then I always like to start with celebrating our staff. We have an amazing staff in our CTE programs, super energetic, lots of engagement, and they are doing very similar work that you'll get to see a little bit of, just tiny little snippet, is what you just saw. Some really incredible programs that we're excited to talk about. To start with, I always like to ground the work in our standards, and standards these are not our academic standards, these are our program standards. So this first one, I just like to kind of, and this is a very abbreviated document that I made just for you, because I don't want to have it be like all of it, but if you want to look at all of these, the RCWs are linked for each of these. These are our CTE program standards. I'm not going to read all of them, but I'm going to highlight a few this year that we've really had as a focus. And when I say this year, I mean from February last year to this point. So a lot of what I'm talking about has already occurred, but it also is kind of projecting forward. Sorry, the error just came one, I guess. So if we can go back to the slide. Nope. Additionally on here, I'll let you guys look at it later, but is our Perkins comprehensive review standards. So while Perkins is one element of CTE, it's one that is often used as a gauge for how we're doing as far as our program success at the state level. So I like to include that there so you guys have that to see as well, just so you know this is what's expected of a CTE program, a quality program. There are
other things that I would want to have as well that are not necessarily captured in those standards, but these are the kind of the basics. Okay. So one that I want to really highlight this year, we've done a lot of work on, in part because of the decision to move to a 6-period day. But also it was time. We've done a really deep dive into all of our CTE course frameworks. So for a CTE course to be approved, it has to be approved both at the state level and it has to be approved at the local level through our IMC process. And what the approval looks like is a framework that has every standard that is both content standards, both leadership and employability standards, and additionally, it has academic core standards such as ELA, math, and science. And then it also has any of the assessments that are going to be done within the course. So we have done an audit of all of those to ensure that the classes that we're actually teaching are what we have approved at the state level. And then we are working on moving those through our IMC process as well to make sure that everything is aligned. Over the course of years, it happens in every district. COVID sure didn't help. We got a little off track on some of the things that we were teaching. And so we're trying to really bring it back and ground it in what it is we actually want in those courses. Some of those courses are model or ones that, and you guys saw this in the 6-period day adoption, where there's state approved model frameworks. Those we can just adopt, but there's also locally approved frameworks that we can also move through the state level that we write ourselves. And so we have a combination of those, like most programs. No, please go back. So revision and renewal of those frameworks. We also, as part of that work, we were already doing that work. And then when the 6-period day came along, it was like, yeah, we're already doing this. So it just kind of aligned. We're looking at our 2-credit sequence graduation pathway that can be done through CTE, as well as creating more opportunities for the dual credit option as a graduation pathway, that alternative to the SBAC. And then we have done quite a bit, and this is a picture of just a little one that happened last week. This is really cool. Actually, it doesn't look that cool in the picture, but it's really cool, I promise. So these are 2 teachers that are working on building a catapult. One is a science teacher, a gen ed science teacher, and one is a CTE science teacher. We have combined those programs, and we've been working with our ESD this last year to prepare them to talk about curricular materials in an adoption next year, because we're due for that for our high school program. And we've been spending time together building out the CTE understanding with our science teachers and our science understandings with our CTE teachers, because we do have several equivalent courses in that program. And so we're really having some great conversation around that. And then we're starting that conversation around equivalencies as well. Now, next slide, please. So, and when it really comes down to bare bones, a lot of what we do in CTE is accountability, which is not a fun word, but it is the truth. And so we have to look at how we evaluate and continuously improve our programs. So the first part of that is our budget, because we are state funded. It's additional enhanced dollars in addition to our BEA dollars. So I'm going to have Shannon, who manages our budget, talk about that.
I think, yeah, there's a link up there to our budget. So we start out with, we get per student, we get FTE dollars for every student that's in our CTE program. So that number up there, the 4,070,359, that's the budget that we start out with. And then Jesse, if you want to scroll down a little bit, it shows our staffing. So we back our staffing out of that first. Which is that 3 million number up there. And then we divvy out money to each of our CTE teachers for their classroom budgets. So that goes to like consumable supplies that they need to teach. PD sometimes comes out of there, those types of things. And then the rest of it goes to just our general program budget. So if we need equipment replaced or curriculum replaced, that type of thing, then that will come out of, or like any bigger project that needs to happen, that'll come out of our program budget. And then we have Carl's Perkins grant, and most of that will go to PD this year. There's a budget worksheet there. You don't have to open it. And then we have a Core Plus grant, which Brad Beyer got this year, and I believe most of his money is going to just teaching supplies to help with those courses that he teaches in Core Plus. And then we did find out our carryover recently, so that's that 44,000 number there. And I just, I think just today we put that back into the teacher's hands, so that will go back into classroom budgets so that they can help support the students. And then middle school, it's the same thing. Starts out with the FTE money, and then back out staffing, the MSOC classroom budgets, program budget, and I think that's it. Do you guys have any questions about that?
I always have questions with money. Shannon, when you have carryover from the previous year, I know a lot of times when you have grant dollars, you have a time frame to use them within.
Mhm.
If you can carry them over from the previous year, how long can you do that and stack that? Is it 1 year, or do you have to use them all by the end of fiscal year?
I believe it's 1 year. So we get the carryover from last year. We find that out about January, February, and then we try to, ultimately, we don't really want carryover. We want to try to spend it that year for the students that year. So we've been trying really hard since Shannon and I both started to not have a whole lot of carryover.
Do we have till the end of fiscal year for that?
End of
July?
August.
August. Okay. Awesome. Okay. Thank you, guys. That was my question.
The other thing I would add about budget is our philosophy kind of has been, we want to get the money into teachers' hands because the dollars are ultimately meant to serve students that we have in the year that we receive those dollars. So we work really hard to do that. We ask each teacher to fill out a budget worksheet. So we say, here's what we're getting, and we kind of divvy it up, and we say, let us know how you want to spend it. If there's things that you need that are not reflected, like when we're talking about framework approval and we're talking about revisions to courses and we're talking about like equipment needs and those type of things, what is it that you think you're going to need? And we try to budget for that first. And then we kind of narrow it down. We're required also, if you look at, don't go back to it, but if you were to look at all those standards again, you would see that there are professional development standards for teachers that they have to meet as well. So we really try to make sure all of our staff are given those opportunities. And we also try to support staff because we can use some of those dollars to support administrators, counselors, and other people who maybe don't directly work with CTE, but also support it. We try to support those staff in learning more about it as well, so that they can also learn, and that all programs are supported through CTE, because any CTE student is a general ed student first. Sorry, lost track. I was waiting for another slide, and this is it. I wanted to show you, and before you open it, I want to give some context. So our Perkins indicator data. So as I said, Perkins is one of those things that is a barometer for how we actually measure our program success. I know you're going to have questions on it, so I'm going to go slow. So the Perkins indicator data is something that is based off of a cohort of students. It is not all students. It is students who have taken 2 credit courses in CTE. So that's what's considered a completer. That often when we look at the data, and I'm not trying to excuse data because it's real, it's our story. But when we look at the data, I will tell you sometimes it looks really bad, and it might look really bad because there's one student that meets that, and they don't pull that out when we look at the data. So it might be one student didn't take an SBAC, and that could skew data in one subgroup. So I just want you to be aware of that before we kind of look at it, because it does look kind of weird. Also, I really want to show some major successes that we have not been able to celebrate in the past as we look at it. So go ahead. Okay, so let me explain how we look at it. And I know it's teeny tiny, but so when you're looking at this, you'll see it says state target and MSD target. The state gives the targets for each of these indicators, and it says, here's what that is. If we have fallen below that historically as a program, or it's a new indicator, which we do have some that are new, then it will say, here's what your negotiated target is. And your negotiated target needs to be about 3% over what it was whatever you reached last year. So you're continually moving up. We have had some negotiated targets. We have less negotiated targets than we did a few years ago. And I hope that by the end of this cycle, we have even less. So when you see it in green as a state target, that means we met that state target. When you see it in red, we did not. If it's white, then we had a negotiated target. We just move over to that column. If it's red in the negotiated target, we did not meet it. If there is an arrow going up or down on the subgroups, that means we either had an increase or decrease. So what this story tells, and like I said, some of these data points are a little bit wonky because there might have been one student in it. So we would go, wow, you got 100%. Well, that means one kid passed the SBAC or one kid didn't pass the SBAC in some of those subgroups. And so without going into all of that, this is kind of the big picture data. So pieces that I think that are really, really huge. First of all, and I'm looking closer because I can't see. I did just get glasses myself, but they're progressives and I can't use them yet. So if you look to, for example, one that maybe doesn't look great, that's really exciting. Can you go down one more? Is this work-based learning? It's red, but if you look across, you see arrow up, arrow up, arrow up, arrow up, arrow up. And we more than doubled what our negotiated target was last year. Sorry, not more than doubled, we almost doubled. And we expect that to go up quite a bit. We see also post-secondary credits. That was a big focus for us last year. So we see the evidence of that coming through where our students are attaining those post-secondary credits when they're in a CTE dual credit course. So there's some really big celebrations. There's also a story of what we need to work on. The one we know, it showed up in our strategic plan, it showed up in our data, it's shown up year after year, is our industry recognized credentials, which has been why we were doing the deep dive that I talked about just a little while ago. That's why that we had made that our deep dive, was to like really dig in and see where we could build these out. The 6-period day is actually a really good opportunity for us in order to kind of look at these again and start and building them into our process a little bit better. IRCs came out during the pandemic and there was kind of an approval list, but it was really gray as to what was, and it came and went a little bit. So we haven't really dug deep. This gives us an opportunity to say, hey, look, we have a 6-period day and we know we have a gap here. So we have to work on this. And that's where a lot of our focus will be in the next year, as well as stuff we're already doing now. So it's actually kind of exciting data in my opinion. Some of it, I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, we need to work on that. But we do see growth in a lot of areas. Even if it doesn't look as good as it could, we see growth and we see a lot of green and we see a lot of arrows going up. And that's what we want. So we want the upward trajectory. And I think we are seeing that. And over time, it's just going to increase. Any questions on the data? Because I know there will be. And if they're not, I'm going to be shocked.
You went over this in detail last year, so I actually remember this.
Nice. I mean, yay me. Okay. If there aren't questions, I'll go on. You can have them later. If we can go back to the slide deck. Last slide, please. So we continually monitor those goals. I don't want you to think that I just look at those once a year with you all and then don't look at it again. I pull that up regularly. That's how we base our program goals. It's what we work with in our advisory, because we meet 3 times a year with our general advisory as well as our program advisory. That is the jumping off point. I've already shared this data with them 2 months ago. I think it was January. And we sat down and we started making program goals. Our teachers are already talking about this. They're looking at what they need to do to increase these things. They have been having conversations about what courses we want to project to the future and what we might offer and how we might meet these goals better. So that is something that lives and breathes very much as a live document with us all year long. I'm not going to go into the annual end of year report because Darby shared that with you earlier this year. You'll see those Perkins indicator data that shows up there too, because we are required by the state to annually report it as well. And I'm going to pass to Darby, speaking of.
All right, we got this sorted out. So we're talking about work-based learning on this part of the report. And what we've done is made some changes to the way we were tracking it. Okay. With the hope that we could, can you hear it? Okay, with the hope that we would increase the accuracy of the report and really reflect the good experiences that are happening in our programs. We've worked with the teachers in each individual program to learn how to track it in our Skyward system. We're in the process of kind of figuring out how that all is going to work. We've also hired CTE TOSA, which would be me, to help support that and help teach that. And Michelle has also been one of the folks that's helped us with figuring out how to track it and how to figure out where the concerns are and just in general, any issues that we have. And we went from having 6,000 errors in CEDARS down to we're under 800 now. So we really kind of can see that there are, this is working. The teachers are learning how to do it. We're learning how to track it, and it's going pretty well. Down there at the bottom, last bullet point is talking about some collaboration kind of at a bigger level, a higher level with Hanover Research to figure out what a portrait of a graduate for MSD should look like. Questions?
I would also add that, again, you see these things showing up from our strategic plans. They're really pulling over. We all have the same goals. One of the things that we have found in all of our deep diving over the last few years is that we had a bunch of behind the scenes errors we didn't know about. So our reporting wasn't happening accurately. So we've been working with Melissa Bowden, our SIS director, in order to correct these. We're going to see the same thing with IRCs next year. We know that. And then I want to celebrate two people. Only one of them could be here today. That's you, Michelle. I'm like, just come up here. We have two amazing people in our career center at the high school. I don't know if you guys know, but if you haven't been in there, you need to get in there and you need to say hello. Brenda Renteria is not here tonight. She's amazing. And this is Michelle Dickinson, also amazing. And they have done, over the last few years, we have been really building this muscle, and we haven't celebrated it because it's kind of one of those ones that, you know, you kind of take it for granted because it's happening so well. And I don't want to let that happen again. So I want to take the time to recognize both of them. They have done an amazing job. If you recall a few years ago, we didn't have anything about the trades. There was nothing in our program. Like, we didn't. Michelle has done an amazing job of bringing in our Snohomish County Labor Council, I never remember their acronym, to bring in Trade Up Apprenticeship Day. We just had our third one last week. We partner with several local school districts. They all come in at the fairgrounds, and we have all of our union labor management groups that are local showing kids what jobs look like. We know of kids who got jobs last week, walked away from the event with jobs locally. And that's pretty dang cool. So both Michelle and Brenda have had a hand in that, but Michelle's really the muscle there. She's also the muscle behind our high school and beyond planning. We did not have a common tool. We were using the Free State tool. It was a nightmare. We have Zello now because of the work that these ladies have done. And we will be now moving to School Links because that's a statewide platform that has been adopted. And we are already, Michelle has been doing a ton of learning around that and how we will be implementing that in the years to come. Michelle and Brenda particularly is really amazing doing classroom and grade level presentations. She gets into every classroom at the high school. They provide an amazing set of resources. They are at every event that involves students in getting them ready for their career readiness. So really amazing. We provide financial aid nights, which we didn't do a few years ago either, in both English and Spanish now. And then we have increased advertising around the school. And what I appreciate about these women and helping us to meet this goal is that they're go-getters. And this is an example. Last year they asked, hey, could we put a like TV up in the right when you walk into the high school? Could we have one there where we do a bunch of advertising? And rather than even like getting me to like answer all the questions, they just went and came up with a plan, collaborated with the ASB, came up with that, and now we have advertising happening there every day, and that's because of them. They're like unsung heroes. So I just want to call that out and celebrate them. And then that's an event. That's a picture from Trade Up Day, so it's pretty cool. Next slide. I also want to thank our general advisory and program advisory committee members. These are all members of our community who show up and participate in conversations around what they want to see in our CTE programs in Monroe. So these guys meet with us, volunteer their time on a regular basis, both as our general committee and our program committees. So we celebrate them frequently and often because we really, really appreciate them and can't do it without them. So thank you. And I always want to celebrate our kids. This is a little early for us, but you will be hearing very soon about all of the victories that our kids are having across both the region and the state and the nation, hopefully. We know we have kids going to nationals in DECA and FFA. We don't know where we're at for robotics just yet. We know our sports med kids are right there along the way too. So we see celebration after celebration. The spring is our biggest, heaviest season. So we're still learning on how the kids are doing, but we're fingers crossed. Additional kind of celebrations we wanted to call out. One of the things we've been working on is our middle school curriculum, and really our Digitools program we kind of really got out of line there. And so as one of you asked earlier about alignment vertically and horizontally, we are really working on that vertical alignment with this. So we are piloting a program called Storymaker, and it was highlighted very recently we actually won an award for our pilot work that we're doing at Hidden River with Lady Jessie Crowther. It is a really cool animated project. So in November, we won one of our students groups earned an award. That we will get to you. I have a feeling somebody in the audience might be able, or at least sitting over there, might be able to figure out how to get it to work. So we'll come back to that. Let's just work on that little problem solving. So we also have another celebration we want to spend time with if we can't get this video to work, but and that is I'm going to let Darby and Michelle speak to because they're the ones that took our kids to this. And this is our second time doing this, another huge win for this group.
I'm going to lower the mic a little bit. So this slide is about the Echo Healthcare Tour. We're super fortunate to do it with the high school students last year, and then even more fortunate to be able to do it with both middle schools this fall. And so what it is the Snohomish County STEM Network. We partner with them and they bring in professionals, and those professionals set up stations similar to Trade Up Day. And the students get to go and visit those stations and learn about the different professions. So you can see in one of the pictures that they're working on a little monster dinosaur. They're cleaning his teeth and stuff and learning about what it's like to be in the dentistry field. And they also got a CPR session. There were several of them, but it was just amazing. And Katie Minetti was one of the teachers that went with us. And she said, this is my first field trip ever. This is so amazing. And just getting them out and seeing all of these things, they still talk about it in class today. So it was super awesome and is one of my favorite parts of my job. Actually, in a few weeks, I'll be taking the high school kids again. So you'll see more about that.
So the Echo Tour is an example of work-based learning that we spoke about earlier. And this is something that, again, Michelle has been doing a really fantastic job of ensuring that we get opportunities. We have been kind of big borrowing and stealing from local organizations to allow us to be a part of these type of things. And so it's something that we're really seeing the benefit with our kids, that they get these opportunities. I think we might have the video now. So as he's kind of getting that together, I will just kind of share. These are completely student written, student generated, and student voiced videos that they put together. They kind of write their own story and they're able to put together the entire thing. We are hoping that this, if we adopt this program, that we will be using it up at the high school level as well. We will have a parallel class for them at the high school that also uses the same type of skills in order to build out our computer science program and offer more opportunities within that branch.
Some people forget about Thanksgiving and jump to Christmas or other winter holidays, but it's just as important as any other holiday. It's a time to be with family and not be judged when you overfill your plate. But you do know the real story of Thanksgiving, right? In 1621, the Plymouth colonists from England and the Native Americans Wampanoag people shared an autumn harvest feast that is acknowledged as one of the first Thanksgiving celebrations in the colonies. There's a lot of details in between, but I think the most important thing is how they came together to be thankful for what they have. What are you grateful for this year? You might be thankful for friends and family, but what about hot food, or a bed, or technology? Maybe school, even if you hate it. There might be little things you've overlooked. So this year, instead of focusing on that delicious pie your aunt made, think about what you should be grateful for.
So they are given kind of a selection of animations. They select which ones they want, and then they pick what the motions, everything is, and then they match their voices to it. They record, match, do all of that, and they write the stories and they do the research. So it's all kid produced without the kind of basics are in there. But so really exciting to kind of see that kids are starting to have these experiences and build this out within our program. Thank you, Jesse, for digging. And also thank you to the other Jesse for being amazing and taking it on as a pilot. We have a couple of celebrations. I know we're running a little long, so we always want to bring in kids. We had we had several, I'm just looking at the four. We had several kids who were students of the quarter for our Snow Isle program. I always want to remind people that Snow Isle is a CTE program. It's a partnership we have and we dedicate a lot of time to. So we had winners in early childhood education, electronics, engineering technology, welding and metal fabrication, video game design, cosmetology, and then fire service technology. They are recognized for their excellence, I can't speak tonight, on communication, attendance, and demonstrating core values of integrity, honesty, and character. So congratulations to all those students, Macy, Kenya, Kira, and Josiah, Lizette, and Peyton. Thank you all for supporting us and giving us your time today.
Awesome. Do you guys have any questions? Thank you. Thank you guys for all of that. It was a lot and really awesome things to see. Appreciate that. All right, we're going to move on to agenda item 4.01, student representatives. Who's going to go first?
Good evening, everybody. ASB recently hosted 2 successful events, Battle of the Bands and Macho Volleyball, both which brought great energy and student engagement to our school community. Looking ahead, ASB is excited to present our multicultural assembly and our multicultural night on April 18th. This event will celebrate the diverse cultures within our school through performances, displays, and interactive experiences. We look forward to bringing our community together for this special night, along with ASB elections coming up pretty soon. We are thrilled to celebrate the incredible achievements of our DECA team at the state DECA competition. MHS secured 7 spots for nationals, showcasing the hard work and dedication of our students.
Oh, okay. So spring sports have officially started. First with the boys soccer game. What? Okay, sorry. Spring sports have officially started. The first boys soccer game will be this Wednesday, March 12th versus Cedar Crest at home at 7:30. Then boys baseball will also have their first game March 12th this Wednesday at home at 4 o'clock. And then girls will have their game Thursday, March 13th at Glacier Peak at 4:02. And then girls tennis will have their first matches in Chelan for an overnight jamboree on March 14th. Then the first track meet will be next Thursday, March 20th at Lake Stevens. The first event will be starting at 4. And also coming up is MHS Choir, who will be performing a concert on March 19th at 7 p.m. at the high school. And then Decker members really succeeded recently. A special congratulations to Isabella Conley, who named Area 1 chapter members of the year, area number 1 chapter member of the year. And then shout out to Isabella again. And I'm not going to say this right. I think it's Lalitha Dornula for placing 6th overall in the student base and their prize. And then the retail category for their work with the market, and to Brock Peterson for placing 7th overall in personal finance literacy. And yeah, I had really fun at Macho. I'm really sad that the junior boys won over the senior boys because it was their last year, but it's my favorite event always. Yeah.
Any questions? Myron, were you on the junior boys team this year for it?
No, I was on a senior team, but we lost first round.
Oh man.
But I was just a coach.
Okay.
So yeah.
That's okay. You got it next year.
Yeah, I got it next year. We're definitely gonna win next year. It's gonna be the football boys versus the basketball boys.
So now that we have kind of things starting to, I know it can feel like a fast wrap up. I was asking you guys a little bit like, what is it like getting ready for you, Myron, getting ready for senior year coming up soon and wrapping up your junior year, and then Sophia, the seniors getting ready for the end of the school year and graduation. What's that? What's the pulse of the school right now?
I think it's like sad but happy. It's like weird that it's almost over, like especially like for boys basketball. Like I grew up with a lot of those boys, and it felt like just yesterday, like we were freshmen watching them on C team, and now they're like in state playing in varsity. And I think it's like really weird. Like that was our last student section because they don't really happen in soccer. It's just weird. It went by like so fast, and it's weird to like see everybody all grown up now.
I'm actually excited for it to go to senior year because, well, I'm excited, but I'm also going to be a little sad because it's going to be my last year, and it's just going to be sad, like seeing the people you grew up with just go their separate ways, especially people that you really grew up with and really talked to during high school.
Yeah. Enjoy those memories while you guys have them. Anything else? All right, thank you guys. Okay. Agenda item 4.02, we can go ahead and move past that because we do not have any public comments. And that allows us to jump into our one business item tonight, which is agenda item 5.01, consideration of adoption of policy 2415, performance-based pathway for high school graduation. Before we get into discussion, we need to go through the motion process. So, that's right. This is just information because it is first reading. Okay, so there is no action item tonight. That's correct. Thank you. All right, Shannon, you want to walk us through this? Yes, it is the Shannon night tonight.
You missed me, right? Okay, so this is the WASDA model policy on, as said, the performance pathway. As you might recall, a few years ago, I think 6 years ago, the state put into effect those alternative graduation pathways aside from this testing requirement. Over time, there's been a couple studies that were done to identify that not all the pathways, even though there were several, there was still a need for an additional pathway. So recently, as of I think about this time last year, the state released this alternative pathway, which is the performance pathway. It is a way for students to show proficiency in ELA and math, specifically by doing somewhat, and part of the policy approval would be identifying ways in how we want to create an internal structure. So that part is not yet determined, but in looking at how we want to provide this, it's basically a collection of evidence. It's not the COE, but a collection of evidence really around ELA and math proficiency. There are model ways that this can be done procedurally that we don't have in places as of yet, but because we wanted to do the policy piece first. But it would really be utilized by some of our students who aren't meeting that alternative graduation pathway or the SBAC testing requirement in other ways. We know, because there's been a great request that it will be used a lot at probably Leaders and Sky Valley. Both principals there have reached out and had conversations around that. I believe we would also see some of our students receiving services on IEPs would also probably be accessing it. There are other students. It's not like it's only available to those students. It would be available to all students if that was the correct way for them to go. They would work with, hypothetically, they would work with whatever their case manager, counselor, or person that might be helping them work through their high school and beyond plan and what their ultimate goals are, so that it would be in line with that. Because whatever the pathway is, it should be aligned with the high school and beyond plan. So this would be a part of that.
Any questions? One that I had, and I know that even back, rewinding the clock quite a bit, is even when we had Wausau and when it was state requirements for that, there was always like an alternatives pathway process. The model policy that we have is relatively, I don't want to say simplistic, but it's not very long, and which is pretty normal. Does the state also have model procedures in place for us to make sure that we walk through all of the different components correctly?
I believe so. So what, and they also have, they've been having ongoing webinars all year around how to implement this. And so I believe so. I haven't gathered that as of yet, but I have been attending those webinars, and there's, you know, lots and lots of information on what that can look like. And it really is, there is a lot of local control in this one. So the procedure does look a little bit different, I think, district to district, but my understanding is that there isn't a WASDA procedure. We just need to kind of look at what we want, where we want to implement it.
And then the last question I had for this was, obviously, we're already in the second semester for this school year. For students, this is not going to go into effect. So is this the process? Is this implementation going to be put into effect for students for next school year? Okay.
Yes.
All right. Thank you. Any other questions? Okay. All right. Thank you, Shannon. Appreciate that. All right. Since there's no action item for that one, thank you so much for that, Molly. No action item for that one. We can go ahead and move on to our consent agenda. Is there a motion?
I move that the Monroe School District Board of Directors approve all items as listed and presented in the consent agenda dated March 10th, 2025.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, there's a motion and a second to approve that the Monroe School District Board of Directors approve all items as listed and presented in the consent agenda dated March 10th, 2025. All in favor, please raise your hand. All right, motion passes 3-0. Superintendent Woodward, you have an update for us.
All right. So first, I just want to share a little bit about our collaborative teams that we have going on. So you could see the team from Frank Wagner. That's like one of our exemplars. And James had mentioned, yeah, it would be nice, you know, to kind of look at me if we can scale that. A lot of our professional development and a lot of our time and energy and resources is directed towards becoming a model solution tree PLC district. The vast majority for us to get that distinction, it would mean the vast majority of our collaborative teams are operating just like that one. So every one of our schools has exemplar kind of teams, much like that team. We are working towards getting everybody there. So that's a big part of our improvement effort. So I just want to definitely make that clear as we look at a little bit of our learning data. Jesse, you're going to put that up tonight, because this is a mid-year check-in. Thanks, Jesse, on our iReady data. So as you know, we do that in the fall, winter, and spring of every year. And it's one of the few areas that we have like just-in-time system-wide data for us to act upon when we get it. So we have the achievement data that's just yearly, really, and then we have growth/achievement data from iReady. So with that, I'll dive right in. Just a little reminder, iReady is just an online assessment program, and it's for both reading and mathematics, and it helps provide personalized learning pathways for our students. Go ahead and hit the next one, Jesse. As you may or may not be aware, it's mostly not mostly, a big part of it is the diagnostic assessment that we do 3 times a year. And then we also have something called My Path, and some of you have kids in our district right now. Well, actually, all 3 of you do. When they're doing iReady, they're basically engaging in adaptive technology it's right on their skill level based on what they have shown that they can do on the diagnostic assessment. Go and hit the next one. We use it for at its best, adaptive technology is a phenomenal differentiation tool. It's Jeremiah, you know, as a former classroom teacher, it's really hard to meet your students, all your students at their particular level. This is just a great use of adaptive technology. So kids can be at their level and instead of being below or above. So it's a big helpful tool for us. So I want to dive in and look a little bit at, go ahead and hit that first one, Jesse. We started with iReady back in 2022. And so what I wanted to do is give you 4 years worth of data this evening to see how where we've progressed and where maybe we have not progressed. So at this point in the year, we just got done with our winter diagnostic. Back in 2022, 31% of our students, if they're green, were either above grade level or early on grade level, which would mean they're right on track to being at standard by the end of the school year. 44% of our students were tier 2, which means back in 2022 during the winter assessment period, which means 1 grade level behind. It could mean they're almost on grade level, or it could also mean they're potentially almost at tier 3 as well. So tier 3 would be at least 2 grade levels behind. Okay, Jesse, you can hit the next one. 2023, you can see a slight uptick in tier 1, went from 31% to 32. Last year, go ahead, Jesse. Last winter, we went up to 35% of our students were tier 1, and this is again for mathematics. And this winter, we're at 38%. So you can see we're definitely on the right track. A lot of very intentional things are happening to help us get there. We would like to be more along the lines of about 50%. About half our students would be more the norm, if you will. So what we want to make sure that we do is continuing to move the percentage at tier 1. And I'm pretty confident we're going to start moving it quicker. One of the things that we believe helped was we're having more kids attend school more regularly, right? So we 7% higher year over year from 2023 to 2024. So we fully expect to see more than 3% gains. We'll do another snapshot at the end of this school year to see what one full year's worth of instruction and learning where we will be as well. I want to thank Jen. Jen, your email is from Saturday, by the way. And I know you were really digging into the data on Saturday. So I asked Jen to do a little deeper dive. So that's very general data. For mathematics, what you just looked at, Jen noticed that almost all grades, our students have increased their relative placement compared to last year. And I asked her why does she believe that is so? And she attributes it to the work that was shared by our Frank Wagner teachers, that we're doing that at a much deeper level across our system right now, which means we've dug into the essential standards, which means we've narrowed our focus a bit. Teachers are getting better at utilizing data to inform their practice, use of common formative assessments, and then just getting better at having those conversations during our early release time. We also noticed, if you a real deep dive into grade 6, that our 6th grade math students are outperforming their peers according to Washington State and national norms. And Jen thinks, I think it's a pretty good assumption, that that has to do with our relatively new instructional materials, the IM materials. We're still working on getting better at utilizing those materials, and we can improve in regards to our consistencies, but we do believe that's making a big difference. And let's see if there's anything else I want to hit. Oh, the median percentage towards typical growth for our students is consistent across our demographics. And we believe that has to do with our focus on all students, and making sure that we are closing those gaps as well as our inclusionary practices. We're making sure that all kids have access, for the most part, almost all kids, to on-grade core level instruction. Okay, so with that, let's go ahead and go backwards one, Jesse, back to reading. So you can see, go ahead and put them all on there, it's okay. You can see same upward trends when it comes to our iReady reading diagnostic as well. For winter, you can see we were at about 43% of our students were at tier 1 in 2022, up to 48% in 2025. So that's the good news. I mean, we're trending upwards. And again, we want to be at least at that 50% level. One of our areas that's proving to be challenging is you can see both in math and reading, there's far too many of our students are at least 2 grade levels behind. That is very concerning for us. You can see it actually grew a little bit in this past winter. There's a lot of work. Well, let me back up a little bit. Go ahead and hit the next slide, Jesse. Back to the good for a moment. You can see, oh no, sorry, Jesse, the very last slide. So we can break down both for reading and mathematics placement by domain. So these are all the strands for reading. We noticed that both for phonological awareness and phonics, those were our largest growth areas year over year. You probably remember I talked a little bit about our science of reading team, where we have a team of teachers crosswalking our current practices with the science of reading. So this year we are piloting something called UFly. I know I've mentioned this here before. Roughly 20 of our teachers are piloting this curriculum that is being piloted because of a hole we think we have in our instructional materials as it relates to those particular areas. So we know that those pilot teachers using those materials is making a difference on overall reading growth and reading achievement. We also know that phonological awareness, being a good decoder, et cetera, also lends itself to higher degrees of comprehension. So our comprehension relative scores are going up as well. So that's on the good side. And more to come on that, because the pilot so far has been pretty darn successful. We'll have those teachers come and present prior to any kind of a more formal adoption of that supplemental materials. Back to those gaps that we're having, or not the gaps, but the tier 3 issue that we're having. Our teachers have really clearly articulated that they're not totally sure what to do for those students that are 2 or more grade levels behind. So we are working system-wide on our multi-tiered systems of support plan, where we're going to be very, very clear. This is what happens for students that are tier 1. Here's what happens at tier 2 and tier 3. Oftentimes we think of tier 3 kind of traditionally as students with IEPs or learning disabilities, and we know that's not true. So as long as we subscribe to that belief, we will not be able to meet those students' needs that are currently at tier 3. So our MTSS work that we're doing, our professional development as a result of that work is going to help. And then also, if all of our collaborative teams are at the level of that 3rd grade team that shared tonight, we're going to solve this problem, because you can see that they're really focused on kid by kid, skill by skill, spending time intervening and shuffling the deck, if you will, and making sure kids have support at their deficit areas, as well as the areas that they're good at. Because what they didn't mention during that intervention time, the kids who already get it are learning that particular skill at a deeper level. So there's enrichment happening at the same time as intervention. So that's a lot. So the hopeful part is we're moving the needle, and we know to a pretty large degree why we're improving. The part that's concerning to us that we're getting after is that the tier 3 numbers. So what's next for us? We're going to do a much deeper dive than this. If there's anything that you would like to see at a deeper level, just let me know and I can pull that for you, because we're going to, we already are drilling down to, we have all this data by grade, by school. We can break it down elementary to middle school. So we're drilling down, and we are going to identify which areas of our school district, which specific classrooms have experienced the most growth. We don't think, I'm very confident that we know the answer lies within our own school district. And we're going to take a look at our top 10% of the spaces in our district that had the highest level of growth. And we'll invite them into this room soon, have dinner with them, and just ask them, what in the world are you doing to get the results that you're getting? And then we'll make a plan as far as how to scale that great work, because we want all kids to experience high levels of growth in every classroom, of course. One little side note that I did not share that we're pretty excited about is there's a new norm study for this particular, it's a norm referenced assessment. So we can look at typical growth for our students relative to the national norm. In reading, we are well outperforming. Our students are growing at a much higher level than the median for the nation. And then math, not as high, but we are outperforming that median growth as well. Where we're making the biggest growth are the students that are 2 or more grade levels behind. So what would be normal? The norm would be, the students would be, let's see, Jen, you're probably going to have to help me with this one, but I'm going to try. The tip for our students who are 2 or more grade levels behind in reading, as an example, they're making 111% what typical growth would be. Typical growth would be, as far as the norm study, is more like 67%. So our students who are furthest behind are making the most growth. So that's a good sign. So those students, we hope we just keep after it. We'll get those kids up to grade level. So again, there's some, yes, please do. Thank you.
So one of the things that I said to Sean is, so our students who are the furthest behind from reaching proficiency are the students that we need to focus on the most in terms of making their stretch goal. And so in iReady, there's kind of 2 goals. There's the typical growth goal, and they look at kind of the median student when they're talking about the typical growth. And obviously we want all students to make their typical growth because that's a year's worth of growth. But we don't always see that. And our job is to figure out why don't we see that? What do we need to change or shift or do to improve that? But for our students who are the farthest behind, we really need them to make their stretch growth. And what iReady has told us is that if students are making their stretch growth 2 years in a row, no matter where they start, so if they start 3 years behind, if they make that stretch growth 2 years in a row, they will be at grade level. And so we're really working hard to help our teachers and our principals identify, like, who are those students who made it last year, who made their stretch growth last year. And it's around 25% of students, which is pretty good, actually. And then how do we get those students to make it again? Because if they can just do it 2 years in a row, we'll have them back on grade level. And so that's something that we're really kind of focusing on. And with them making 111, the median making 111% towards typical growth, we know we're on our way there. So we're kind of excited about it.
Yeah, thank you so much, Jen. And we also, the other thing that we're going to take all this data and work with our principals. It's next week or the week after, I can't remember, and drill down by school, and then they'll drill down by grade level. We want all of our staff, and again, we have a great deal of our staff this way already, working with the same sense of urgency you saw tonight. We know that March is a tough month always in schools, and we know we have a lot of instruction and learning opportunities between now and the end of the year, and we're going to make sure we have our foot on the gas pedal all the way through, because we have a great opportunity now between winter and spring to make sure kids have a great springboard into summer, into the next year. So we'll do a similar report here in the spring, and then we can compare how we did this spring versus previous springs as well. So yeah, that's all I have.
Can I ask a couple questions?
Yeah.
Okay, so on there it says winter diagnostics. So these are not like full fiscal year or full school year 22 to 3, 4, and just partial year 25. These are comparative data points because they're
Exactly.
comparing the same framework of time.
Yes.
Okay, and then the other part of it was I wanted to understand the stretch goals a little bit better because as Jennifer was talking, with the stretch goals that we have for some of the students that are behind, if they're able to make their goal within about 2 years, it brings them up to grade level. But if the median is 111%, if that's what they're performing at, it would take you almost 10 years in order to actually get up to grade level because you have to hit 100% every year anyway. So if you're only at 10% extra, what does that look like? Thank you, Jennifer. It looks like you're ready for that one. Help me understand that.
So each student's stretch growth is different,
Okay.
and it's based on what their baseline placement was. And so it's not really based on the percentage. The typical growth would be you'd want 100% for every student by June. But each student's stretch growth, it might mean one student needs to grow 130%, another student only needs to grow 70%. So their stretch growth is different depending on where they come in at. So it's difficult to look at the typical growth and ascribe it to the stretch goal because each student's stretch goal is individualized. That makes sense.
Yes, it does. And I understand that the 111 is a median number. There's something you said that I want to make sure I understand. You said another student's stretch goal could be 70%. Is that not a stretch goal if it's under 100?
Well, students who are coming in above grade level
Okay.
won't need to grow as much. And so they typically won't even have a stretch goal, to be perfectly honest. They just have their typical growth goal
Okay.
because they're already performing above grade level. I mean, we have some students at the middle level who are already testing into high school in some of the domains, so they wouldn't have a stretch growth goal.
So most of the stretch goals then are over 100% because they're the ones that are performing behind grade level. So that means they need to make more than a full year's
Yes.
growth. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. All right. That was what I wanted to ask. Thank you. Any other questions? All right. Thank you so much. Appreciate that. That said, I was going to ask next meeting, are we going to have a snapshot on attendance as well? Okay. I was curious after all that flu going through and kicking all of our tails too. It may have an effect on that as well, but we'll see. Still up compared to last year. That's awesome. All right. Get those kids in classroom. Okay. That allows us to move on to agenda item 9.01. 8.01, board reports. Sorry, we're not adjourning yet. Anyone want to go first?
All right, a couple of things. So we had our first capital facility advisory committee meeting, which was on the 26th of last month, and it was amazing. It's just sort of the facts, what we need to know about the school buildings. It was amazing to see so many different faces from the community though come and be engaged. They came with great questions and yeah, the engagement was awesome. It was so good to be there. So I'm really excited for the one at the end of this month. And I know that everyone at Sky Valley is very excited as well. I went in to just sort of talk to the principal and those in the front office, and I'm just sort of give them a rundown of how it went. And they're very hopeful for the future, which is really good. Also, that multicultural night on April 18th, this is going to be the third year that the high school has done it. So first and second year, it was amazing. It's an event to be remembered, and I would encourage everyone to go and attend. I will be there. I'm really excited to cheer on our students in our spring sports, and just want to again say congratulations to our boys basketball team for making it to the Tacoma Dome for the first time since 1992. What an absolute incredible feat. They did lose by 10 points in that game, but my goodness, they rocked this season and just incredible. They were so fun to watch, as were our girls. So I'm excited for the school visit this Thursday at Chain Lake, and I know we've got 2 others this week, but man, that is a happy place when I can be in schools watching our amazing educators educate those precious kids from our community. It's awesome. So I'm very excited for that, excited to see what's going on and all the artwork from the kids on the walls just makes my day. So, and it's almost officially springtime, I guess. We still have a little bit of time left, but man, I'm ready for it. I want the flowers. I got my baby chicks, my new baby chicks to add to my flock. So I'm fully there and ready for it. Bring it on.
So you're saying we can get eggs from your house?
I got 74 this last week. I was like, yes.
That's liquid gold right there. Director Etzkorn?
Yeah, I'd just like to echo, congratulations to all the state competitors, with the boys basketball that Molly just mentioned, with girls basketball, the WIA state tournament, girls and boys wrestling at the WIA state mat classic, gymnastics at the WIA state gymnastics, just all around. Congrats and a huge thank you to all the staff and community for their support, which continues to fuel our students' success.
All right. That said, it is 6:34 p.m. and our meeting is adjourned.